Hello basketball fans, and welcome to today's show where we will be talking about all the latest news in the world of the NBA. Ben Simmons is back. When should we expect to see him in action? This plus other the latest NBA news. What do you think is the most astonishing thing to happen in the basketball world this week? Stick around to find out. First, let's highlight Simmons returning to the NBA world during the playoffs. The Brooklyn Nets are currently taking on the Boston Celtics in their NBA playoffs first round matchup and will look to tie up the series at one game apiece in Wednesday's Game 2 matchup. The Nets have long been considered one of the most dangerous teams in the playoffs, with star players Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving leading the way. It now appears that the team could be getting a valuable piece back in the not-so-distant future, one that could really make them a championship-caliber team. NBA insider Adrian Wojnarowski reported on Wednesday that three-time All-Star Ben Simmons could return as soon as Game 3 of the series, but a likely return date would be for Game 4. Simmons has not played in a game this season, first going through disputes with the Philadelphia 76ers organization prior to being traded, and then suffering from a back injury that has set back his return date multiple times. This update on Simmons has certainly gotten the NBA world talking, with many excited to see what he could bring to an already dangerous Nets team. While some are excited about his possible return, some certainly think that he could go through some growing pains, with his new team just throwing him out there for his first game of the year in a playoff setting. It remains to be seen how effective Simmons would be should he be able to return in this series. Having players like Durant and Irving pull the majority of the load offensively certainly helps, but Simmons may be a bit rusty playing in his first game of the year in a playoff game. Regardless, his level of passing and defensive skills will likely be a huge bonus for the Nets and could be a true X factor when it comes to winning in the playoffs. Next up, Ben Simmons gets roasted by NBA Twitter on the last day of regular season action. In other news, the sky is blue. Jokes aside, there's nothing worse than making the fans of Philly mad at you. It doesn't matter if you play for the Sixers or not, but when you are one of the team's most beloved players in a city and then suddenly decided not to show up at all because of a playoffs criticism, that too while having a supermax contract, things are bound to go wild. The hatred will be off the charts, and Simmons is feeling that hatred for a long time now. Some say it's his Call of Duty addiction that is causing his back pain and stopping him from starting his real duties in Brooklyn, while NBA Twitter from Philadelphia has kept the 6'11 point guard on guard, awaiting his debut to put more fuel in the fire if he fails to perform. Nets fans would be excited to see their new look team. Even if you ignore how better Simmons makes the team defensively, Brooklyn did not have the unselfishness that they have now when Harden was around. 3 elite ball handlers, out of which at least 2 are much happier to let others have their limelight, is a scary prospect for the other teams who would have to face the Nets. In other news, Kyrie Irving is the most selfish player, but Ben Simmons is the most pathetic. Stephen A. Smith goes off on the Nets stars after Brooklyn stands 0-3 versus the Celtics. Stephen A. Smith roasts both Kyrie Irving and Ben Simmons for their issues as the Nets trail the series 0-3 to the Celtics. Kyrie Irving and Ben Simmons, man, both brilliant players in their own right, but both are among those in the NBA who bring their own set of problems. The former Celtics star missed most of this past regular season due to his decision not to take the COVID vaccine, and while every individual reserves the right to choose whether or not to take the shot, his decision clearly was one that caused problems in Brooklyn. On the other hand, Ben Simmons' spat with the Philadelphia 76ers during last season's playoff still plays fresh on fans' minds, and we're sure it's fresh on Nets personnel's minds as well. With Brooklyn down 0-3 in their series against Boston, everyone has been talking about these two stars almost exclusively, and with all that happening, why should Stephen A. Smith be left out of the party? Stephen A. Smith has made it a bit of a hobby to rag on Kyrie Irving off late, but it appears that with the Nets down as bad as they are right now, Ben Simmons is getting a piece of the pie as well. Here is what he had to say. Kyrie Irving is, quote, the most selfish player, but Ben Simmons is the most pathetic. Yikes. We wouldn't go so far as to say either Ben Simmons or Kyrie Irving are selfish per se, but yeah, they definitely aren't completely innocent either. Next up, NBA Twitter reacts as the KD-Kyrie tandem in Brooklyn cannot withstand the Celtics sweep. Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant receive criticism and comparison to LeBron James as they plunge into abject misery after getting swept. The brooms are out, and the C's have done it. They have swept the early season title favorites in the first round of the playoffs. The Brooklyn Nets have looked defensively abysmal all season, and today, everything came undone with their season on the line. With nowhere to run, it is time to pour out some critique on Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant's horrendous playoffs. Irving is most notably the player at fault. His bizarre anti-vax stance led to him missing out on a bunch of games in the regular season. Irving did manage to play in that final half of the season, and while he may have shown flashes of brilliance, the team never gelled. This series proved that no matter how star-stacked your roster is, time together is far more important than your star power. The Nets have been the center of attention for much of the season. While they made the playoffs, unlike their West Coast counterparts, this sweep made them no better. The internet is reacting to this loss with great animus, especially towards Kyrie Irving. The point guard may be one of of the most skilled players in the league. However, in this series, he was light. His performances without a certain LeBron James have been notably bad. He has won just one playoff series without the King. Fans have been berating Irving for throwing shady comments on LeBron while not having the cojones to back it up. Their recent loss could perhaps have been the final nail in the coffin. Moving on, Luka Doncic talks smack as he put the Utah Jazz in a spell while enchanting the Dallas Mavericks crowd. Did you tune in to the Luka Doncic show recently? If you didn't, you missed out on the Slovenian takeover as the Mavs crushed the Jazz at home. Luka Doncic has barely been back from injury, and yet he is putting up scintillating numbers. In the last 65 minutes of play, he has put up a remarkable 63 points. Today's emphatic win over the Utah Jazz means the Mavs are only one game away from clinching the series. But in the post-game interview, Doncic added that the job is not done. Very Kobe-esque. His domination recently reminds us once again that he is coming for the throne. He cooked Rudy Gobert tonight, and the whole world tuned in. Rudy Gobert can't guard me, he said. Luka's dominance was not just team best. It was the opponent's best too. No player on the opposite end had more points, rebounds, or assists than Doncic. He hit big shots in the third quarter and also had more points than the entire Utah Jazz team. The Mavs took a commanding lead and never looked back. And to add to an ever-growing career resume, Doncic has 499 points in his first 15 career playoff games, which is good for 5th all-time in terms of points total. Will the Dallas Mavericks wrap up the series away from home? We'll have to see in 3 days whether Luka can do his wizardry once again. Finally, Skip Bayless expresses alarm over Kevin Durant's no-regrets statement after being swept 4-0. Veteran NBA analyst Skip Bayless was appalled by Kevin Durant's post-game interview, tweeting his reactions with a Michael Jordan reference. A nightmare in the making for some time now, the Nets have suffered an embarrassing first-round exit in the current playoffs. To make matters worse, it was a 4-0 sweep at the hands of a young Celtics group. The Nets duo of Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving looked lost for the first time in their respective careers. One of the most skilled big men the league has ever seen, Durant shot below 40% from the field and averaged 5.3 TPG. On the other hand, Irving failed to display his clutch gene. Nonetheless, both Durant and Irving seemed at ease during the post-game interactions, especially KD, who claimed to have no regrets. That's all the time we have for today, guys, and make sure to subscribe to the channel for more great NBA news. Till next time, cheers!